Hi, I'm Kelly. Imagine if everything around you was alive. Not like Disney's Beauty and the Beast, talking clocks and candlesticks kind of alive, but everything was imbued with a spirit or spiritual energy. For many Shintoists, this is a reality. Shinto is a religion and a belief system that originated and continues to thrive in Japan. For Japanese Shintoists, nearly everything in nature has what is called kami. It would be impossible to contemplate the Shinto tradition without a precursory understanding that the kami play more than a central role in the tradition. And what better way to learn about the Shinto tradition of Japan than to go to Japan? Come on.
Welcome to Tokyo. We hope you enjoyed your flight. And thank you for flying Living Room Airways.
Thanks. That flight is always quicker than I expect. And as suspected, Japan looks nothing like my living room. Perhaps we should find a more quiet place to talk. Much better. Okay, back to our Shinto conversation. The name Shinto was not really in use until the need arose to differentiate the tradition from Buddhism, after the Buddhist tradition made its way into Japan around the 6th century. But the name Shinto fits the bill quite well because it actually means kami way. There are a number of different branches of Shintoism. The most common, and the one we'll find being visibly practiced here in Japan, is Shrine Shinto. Shrine Shinto is an organized system of shrines, festivals, prayers, and rituals that are somewhat consistent among the more than 80,000 Shinto shrines sprinkled throughout present-day Japan. Shinto shrines can range from small countryside shrines to majestic complexes such as the Grand Shrine of Ise. Given the size of the shrine and the parishioners it serves, features of the shrines can vary somewhat. However, what they all have in common is that they are all dedicated to honoring and worshiping kami. But what is kami? Well, let's find out more. Any attempt to apply a traditional religious divine framework around the concept of kami would yield an erroneous result. And kami is difficult to define in specific terms, except to say that kami can be considered gods and spirits. However, kami is much more complicated than any simple explanation can provide. Perhaps the best place to start is with the Kojiki, the Japanese origin story. Dating back to the 8th century, the Kojiki tells the story of both the birth of Japan as well as the origin of kami, telling of the kami god Amino Manakanushi appearing as the center of heaven. Much like the traditional Christian god, Amino Manakanushi is the first of the Japanese kami gods to appear out of nothing. Following Amino Manakanushi came the kami gods of birth and growth, Taka Mimasubi and Kami Mimasubi. The Kojiki tells also of the kami Izanagi and Izanami, a brother and sister team who are credited for creating the island landmasses that we now know as Japan. Certainly the work of Izanagi and Izanami provides some incredible foundation for the origins of Japan. However, the central figure among the Shinto tradition is not Izanagi, Izanami, or even Amino Manakanushi. Among the second generation of kami to come into existence is the kami of the sun, Amaterasu. Amaterasu remains as the chief deity among the myriad of kami in the Shinto tradition. Not in keeping with much of Western thought, children through a sibling pair was not viewed as an issue within the Kojiki stories. And therefore, Amaterasu and her brother Susanoo were born to Izanagi and Izanami, along with many other kami. These kami mark the genesis of the kami mythology within the Shinto tradition. However, they don't comprise the full complement of the kami that have come into existence and are worshipped and enshrined among the present-day shrines of Shinto. However, these kami we've just met are among the anthropomorphized kami figures. Kind of like gods who take action and create things like Japan and the universe. But the kami of today are not all created equal. According to author D.C. Holtum, in an article published by Sophia University, Holtum describes kami more like mana, meaning a force altogether distinct from physical power, which acts in all kinds of ways for good and evil, and which it is of the greatest advantage to possess or control. With this in mind, we can better understand how the kami are currently viewed in present-day Shinto. From wind, rain, thunder, trees, rivers, buildings, roads, mountains, war, rice and agriculture, even provocation, nearly anything can be imbued with the kami spirit. Considering that each human also carries a life force or spirit or soul, technically humans are kami as well. However, this is not typically how humans are viewed in the Shinto tradition. Well, while they're alive anyway. Kami aren't just divine-born spirits. They can also be the spirit of deceased ancestors who are offered ritual as well. In many cases, ancestor worship is a ritual performed at home at a private family shrine called a kamidana. The spirits of Japanese ancestors are thought to be quite beneficial despite their being deceased. An ancestral spirit can advance ritual purity and even grant blessings. However, not all deceased ancestors are venerated as kami. In a vast majority of circumstances, they are simply respected as an ancestral spirit. So far, it seems that the kami are pretty great. There's an almost inconceivable number of them, and some of them are even personal to us. However, not all kami are good. Kami have three aspects to their nature, known as mitama. The first is aramitama, which is more rough and wild. The second is nigimitama, which is gentle and supportive. And the third and final is sakimitama, which is a nurturing nature. Kami tend to align with one of these traits as its primary disposition. For instance, the brother of Amaterasu, Susanoo, the kami of storms. His disposition trends towards aramitama, showing off his rough and wild side. Yikes. The concept of kami follow along the lines of what would be considered animism, whereby kami can and do exist in real-world elements. For Shintoists, the aspect of animism means that the kami exist together with the living, allowing for an almost tangible relationship to exist in everyday life. Therefore, the veneration and recognition of the kami becomes the central ritual of the Shinto faith. It's important to recognize that those who follow the Shinto tradition do not see the kami as existing in a separate realm, disparate from our own world. Even the spirits of our ancestors linger near and continue to be active in our lives. Considering that the kami is an essential spiritual element of all things, almost anything can be imbued with a kami spirit. The number of kami that exists is innumerable, especially when we consider the three different types of kami. The heavenly kami include the creator deities, such as Izanagi, Izanami, and Amaterasu, known as Amatsu-kami. The earthly kami, called Kunitu-kami, includes Okuninushi, the kami of land, among many others.
This leaves the third classification called Yaoyorozu no Kamigami, which account for the millions and millions venerated as regional deities, and some even unnamed. When we consider that kami represent not only anthropomorphized deities, local and regional deities, and even ancestral family guardians known as ujigami, which can come to be venerated as the tutelary kami of an entire clan or village, we can see how the numbers of kami start to mount. And the idea of ritual worship of all these deities starts to seem, well, daunting.
For the Shintoist, there is no defining line between humankind and the other world of the kami and the spirits. Therefore, the ritual practice comes down to maintaining the relationship to the kami that is all around them all the time. Visiting the shrines and practicing the rituals is the method Shintoists use to ask for favors, blessings, and keep the spirits of deceased ancestors happy in order to ensure their blessing and, of course, their support when it's needed.
With so many kami, it begs the question how Shintoists go about honoring all these deities. Given the marked lack of doctrine and text, we must view the Shinto faith as more of a cultural manifestation rather than a spiritual experience that followers practice outside of their daily lives. Much like we might see with the Christian tradition, when adherents have their work and home lives and cap off the week with a trip to church on Sunday. However, this does not mean that there aren't many Shintoists that are making pilgrimages to specific shrines dedicated to specific kami for specific reasons.
A young student embarking on a new academic journey may make their way to the Tenjin Shrine to pay homage to the divine spirit of Sugawara Mishizen, the venerated kami of academics and scholarship.
From day to day, Shinto followers will typically honor personal kami within their homes at a private shrine known as a kamidama, or a god shelf, as we mentioned before. Additional ritual practice will continue outside the home at a local shrine dedicated to any ujigami, as well as earthly kami and finally heavenly kami, such as Amaterasu. Shrines can enshrine a number of different kami, and many are tied to regional features such as a large mountain, a lake, a river, or even a venerated tree.
So a shrine in the shadow of Mount Fuji might enshrine local ujigami, as well as Konohana Saku Yahime, the goddess of Mount Fuji.
Shrines are considered inviolable once the sacred symbol has been enshrined within. Typically, this symbol is a sacred object symbolic of the kami presence within the temple, and can be an object such as a mirror, curved stone, or even a sword. These items also happen to be the sacred items of the imperial family, given to the royal family by Amaterasu herself. While the size and scale of the shrine and its related buildings and structure can vary among the more than 80,000 shrines throughout Japan, there are a number of elements consistent among all of them.
These elements include a torii gate, an iconic wooden structure that defines the space between the mundane, everyday world and the sacred space of the kami. Purity is an imperative virtue among Shintoists, so an ablutions fountain or some other source of water is available for visitors to wash their fingers and mouths prior to entering. All Shinto shrines also include a worship hall, a central location for adherents to gather for worship. And finally, the inner sanctuary where the sacred object is placed. Access to the inner sanctuary is restricted even to Shinto priests.
The ritual practice of honoring the kami spans the spectrum from daily rituals to annual festivals, many of which happen at the shrines.
Most shrines will celebrate festivals relative to their local kami, while also celebrating the larger festivals at larger, more iconic shrines. Some larger shrines will attract followers from regions far outside their local parish if their particular enshrined kami has a more widespread following. This festival is at the Tenjin Shrine and honors the kami of academics.
Taiko drumming has garnered widespread appeal through a number of large taiko drum shows staged throughout North America and elsewhere. However, the taiko drum is also recognized as a sacred instrument within the Shinto tradition.
Westerners will recognize the massive red drums with the skins stretched over the ends from the large taiko drum productions that have toured worldwide. Performances can be quite energetic and athletic, building to a fever pitch. In the Shinto faith, the drums are not used for entertainment, but rather as an offering to the kami, setting the pace for dances and even for rituals.
It could be that purity is the closest that we can come to the Shinto concept of salvation. Unlike Christianity, where the focus is on avoiding sin as the primary pathway to salvation, Shintoists focus more on being pure and maintaining purity. Death is not an escape from the world of the living and into some other distant heavenly realm, but rather simply shape-shifting in a sense, and relying on your family to continue to honor your presence and work to make your spirit comfortable. To that end, the Shintoist works to maintain purity, so as to receive the blessings of the kami and the spirits of the ancestors that have gone before them, but also to ensure that their own family will honor and venerate them after they pass as well.
In everyday Shinto, deceased ancestors may be venerated and honored in the home, but they aren't necessarily considered kami directly. However, this is not always the case. The account of Sugawara Mishizain tells of the living scholar from the early Heian period. After his death, a number of natural disasters occurred and were attributed to his angry spirit. Therefore, he was posthumously honored as Tenjin Kami and venerated now in his own shrine.
For the Shintoists, misfortune and misdeeds, or sins, can be categorized in the same term, because natural disasters aren't simply the result of weather patterns, volcanic eruptions, or shifting tectonic plates. They're motivated by the kami. This identifies a critical point to understand about the kami. The kami may be divine, but that does not mean that they are always good. As we discovered earlier, like humans, the kami have the capacity to behave beneficently, but also to our detriment. While the legal infractions committed by living individuals are handled by the legal system, natural disasters and other perceived negative occurrences at the hand of the kami usually results in Shintoists seeking ritual purity and holding ritual rites in an effort to calm the spirits.
Shinto continues to thrive in Japan with about 88 million followers. The tradition continues to pass from generation to generation, evolving to accommodate broader worldviews, globalization, and technology. And despite all this change, and even without the presence of a central authority or text, the tradition and its rites and rituals remain steadfast, which just might be the best indicator we have of the power of the kami.
Well, I think that's about all the time we have here in Japan. I better head back to the airport and catch my flight home. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you around.